trafficking is a touchy issue. I have two officers that are assigned to the FBI and the State Police Task Force that deals with human trafficking. And when I came into office, I had some administrators asking if we should pull those officers and put them on the road because we're short in manpower. We're not seeing the stats. That's what they were saying. But I come to realize that sometimes you don't get stats or numbers because you don't keep track of the victims that you touch or made an impact that we don't know about. So how do you keep stats on that? And when you look at it, it does deal with a lot of long-term investigations. So it's not like going out there after drug traffickers and how many drug seizures did you get today. You know, sometimes it takes time to investigate some of these crimes. And when you deal with the victims in human trafficking or sex trafficking, we all know that that's very difficult to have them open up, to give out, to cooperate, to give out information. Like it was said before, some of them don't feel like they're victims. So moving forward in the Sheriff's Department, I intend to build relationship and partnerships with social service agencies, with victim shelters. But I think it's a little bit more than that. My expertise before I became sheriff was drug trafficking. I went after drug traffickers on the highway. It was a passion, I loved it, I knew what I was looking for, I knew how to search vehicles, and I was very successful in it. I believe when you're dealing with human trafficking, it's not just a regular type police work, your day-to-day operations. I think it's dealing with specialized training. I think it starts with finding the right officer to conduct these investigations. You just can't put any officer into the human trafficking division and expect him to do his job if he doesn't have the passion to do this type of job. And so it starts there, finding the right officer that wants to do this job, that's passionate about doing this job, and more importantly, having the proper specialized training in this. I am going to send some of our officers that are assigned to the interdiction program that are out there on the interstate intercepting drugs. And so many times they come across probably a human trafficking situation and they're unaware that it's right there in front of them. There is training for that, and for interdiction human trafficking on the interstate that I just found out about is going to be conducted through the state police, and I intend on sending my officers to that training. So, you know, moving forward, I'm excited about this. I know that a high percentage of it is women, girls that are trafficked in sex trafficking, but we also have labor trafficking. I see it all the time on the interstate. That's a little bit more easier. But, you know, again, they're not crying out for help. They're in that vehicle. They're like slaves there. A lot of them are illegal aliens. So they're not going to say anything. They have that control over them because if they open their mouth, they're afraid that they're going to be deported. And so they keep their mouth shut. You have a van full of individuals, husband, wives, children, and they're stuck. And it's about recognizing it, knowing what to do, and helping these victims. So you got that commitment from me as your Lake County Sheriff. Moving forward, get the officers specially trained in this type of field, and hopefully even expanding that unit. So thank you very much. It's great to be here, and God bless you all.
Thank you, Sheriff Martinez. Next on the program, we will have Judge Stefaniak come up from Lake County Superior Juvenile Court Division and give you a welcome.
Well, good morning all. I kind of feel a little left out. Nick didn't give me a flower. There's always next year. Anyway, you know, I watch this conference grow and grow every year, and I look out and I see all the people we interact with on a day-to-day basis, and there's a lot of a wealth of knowledge in this room, and people that care about helping others. And I'm always absolutely amazed, and it touches my heart to come here and see the good people that do the work that each of you do each and every day. So I thank you for that. You know, I heard Nick earlier say something about Geminis being the best staff. It may be good, but we got juvenile court too, so don't forget about juvenile court. They're pretty good too. The ladies dancing were absolutely amazing, and I always enjoy watching people perform that have coordination, because when I was younger, I wanted to be a police officer, but I got kicked out of the police cadets because I couldn't march. So I really do appreciate what people like that do it. In fact, I looked across the room and I saw El Royal dancing in his chair. So I guess enough of that. I too want to announce something on behalf of Juvenile Court. April 13th, right outside Juvenile Court, we're having our pinwheel event at 12:30. All of you are welcome if you're able to come and attend and maybe put in a pinwheel and kind of celebrate with us. And we always try to get things together with DCS and Geminis, so we're getting better at coordinating. Some of these events will be better coordinated, I think, going on in the future. So, I guess enough of the lightheartedness. As we talk about human trafficking, it absolutely disgusts me what people have to go through to live in these situations. The problem, as I see it, and it was just reiterated to me yesterday about midday by one of the sheriff's deputies who called me about a gal that got picked up yesterday, or that they had in their custody from a check writing scheme out of Indianapolis. And I asked them, well, what authority do you have this person in custody? Because they were asking to put the child in our detention on the charges. Well, they found out that the child was a victim of human trafficking. Her father may have been involved. And the first question I had to him was, what authority do you have this person in your custody? And he texted me the paperwork, and it was a petition from a prosecutor to have the child held. I said, well, did the judge grant it? Well, we don't have a court order. I said, well, how do you have this person in custody legally? So I tell that story not because I want to criticize the officers, but I found myself in a situation where the officers were doing the right thing, and I had to look at whether or not we were violating the child's civil rights. Ultimately, the story turns out the judge had granted the order, and we were able to hold the child. But I guess just yesterday, then this reiterates the bigger problem that we have. As we're all attempting to help people that don't really want to be helped or don't think that they need the help, what the heck are we supposed to do? And we ask ourselves that question every day. The sheriff and the prosecutor, you can hold that person, get them psychologically evaluated to see if in fact they're a victim, to get them out of the area and get them to a different part of the country, because I think last year we told you a story about somebody we had in our custody trying to help, and they jumped the fence, and their trafficker was right on the other side of the fence because they figured out where the hideout place was. Anyway, the problems are complex. We know they are. Don't give up. This is a work in progress. I think nationally, the debate is ongoing. Our prosecutor Carter and our sheriff Martinez are very active in these things and want to do the right things, and I think are fully capable of doing the right things and really doing some great work in this field. So if you have questions, if you have specific, particular problems, go to the right people. Don't give up. the squeaky wheel gets the grease, eventually you're gonna find somebody that's gonna be able to help you dodge and weave in all these legal nuances that we need to solve as a country, in my opinion. That being said, keep up the good work, don't get disheartened. We do actually help people every day, and I think a lot of you were here the first time I talked here, and told the story how I got to juvenile court, having never practiced juvenile law in my life. I tell you, I still love it, and I'm encouraged by each and every one of you doing the heavy lifting every day. So God bless each of you. Anything our office can do to help in this regard, we certainly will. My assistant is Lenice with an L. That's the most direct way to me. I can't always return a call, but generally speaking, we will get you an answer if you have any particular problems. 660-6900. Enjoy the day, learn a lot.
Next year. All right, before we get to our keynote speaker, I figured we'd close out our morning speakers this morning with a bang. I said, by a bang, it was going to be our Lake County Prosecutor, Bernard Carter. Over the last month or so, Prosecutor Carter and myself went to a few local churches and spoke about child sex trafficking. We took the time, and he met me at every service. He sat through and waited till our turn to speak, and I appreciate him for that. He didn't have to do that on a Sunday. That's not required with his county job. He did it of his own free will, and because I kept bugging his office to do so. So I want to give him a round of applause. Bernie always comes with a lot of fire and energy. That's why he is saved the best for last before the keynote comes up. Bernie.
Thank you very much, Neil. I appreciate the introduction. I see a good friend, Don Levinson, out there. I haven't seen him in a long time. Council, it's good to see you. It's indeed a pleasure for me to be here and have an opportunity to say a few words, and I will keep it at that also. As Nick mentioned, when we mentioned about our tour to a lot of the different churches in our Lake County area, when Nick called me about it, I was all on board, so he didn't have to force me or anything like that. I say, sure, but when he started telling me it's Sunday morning, 9 o'clock, 11 o'clock, 2 o'clock, I'm like, wow, that's pretty, but I was good with it. I was good with it. And, but I really want to thank Geminis and Geminis Corporation for putting on this conference, but not only that, but the work they're doing out in our streets. And that's what you have to be. You have to be out where the people are at, and you have to reach out to the people, and you have to kind of really inform and keep people abreast of the problems that we have in our society. Because a lot of people, and I'll give you an example, a lot of people don't understand the problem we have. I'll give you an example. Nick and I were speaking at a number of churches, but I would have conversations occasionally with some of the members, and they would say, I never heard of that. I mean, the term, human trafficking, they may have heard the term, but they didn't associate it. Nobody I've ever known has been touched with that. Now you go back to what Ellis Dumas says in terms of his, and I like that too, about the domestic battery aspect of where we come and where we're at now, and we're still not where we need to be, but we're working it. But human trafficking is something that, in reality, from what people tell me, most people don't know anyone who's ever been trafficked. So therefore, it's not a problem for them. That's as simple as that. That's how they assess it. Now, on the opposite of domestic violence, there's not one person in this room, I venture to say, and if it is, talk to me after the conference. I want to talk to you. There's not one person in this room don't know someone, a family member, a friend, or been a victim themselves. Not one person. So we all can really identify with that, the trauma of that. But what is going on with human slavery, no different than what African Americans went through, in my opinion, no different. And how in the world, I don't know about it. Where have you been? What do you listen to? Or do you listen to it, but it just goes through you? And that's what happens, because it's on the news. They talk about it. Now, one of the churches we came from, in fact, it was Nick's church. A young lady ran out. Nick and I were walking to the parking lot. She ran outside the church during the service and said, I want to talk to you. And she said she's with an organization that they're out going to strip clubs, going to hot spots, if you want to call it that, and talking to these women and trying to give them help. And Nick asked her, well, are you accepted in the strip clubs to talk to these? Because, that's their product. They don't want you tampering with their employees, if you will. And they said, oh, no, we have an understanding, and they will allow us to talk to them. And what they try to convince the ones, are you in this situation? Are you doing this because you want to do this? Or are you being paid by someone? Are you being forced by someone? Are you turning over your proceeds to someone? And I never heard of that. I never heard of an organization going out and doing that, but I think that's something that people need to know that exists, and it's also something that we need to encourage to happen. When yesterday, Nick mentioned at our pre-conference, Barbara was there, this is her book, and she was talking about how you're in denial, even when you're in the slave trafficking process, that you are in total denial. It's almost like the Stockholm Syndrome. You're in total denial that you've been a victim. And as mentioned previous, as Judge Stefaniak mentioned, people are willing to jump over a barbed wire fence to get to the trafficker because they want to get out and continue to do what they're doing. So that is ultimately a strong force to deal with, totally different in many ways to domestic violence, but in the same realm of domestic violence, because domestic violence is also a psychological effect in Stockholm Syndrome and I can't do without him and things of that nature. But in this particular situation, you're taking, like in Barbara's case, 12 years old, out on the streets. Now, one of the things that we need to do and understand is that we need to take that product away from these traffickers, because as long as there's money to be made, they're gonna be doing it. So in turn, what we need to do, and what I use the term preaching for many years, is we really need to take care of these families. We need to have functional families, not dysfunctional families. We need to have parents who really care about their children and put aside their own personal life for that child. When you have a child, you can't say, oh, well, I'm gonna party every night just like I did before the child. That's crazy. Once you have a child, your life changes, and it should change. And if it don't change, then there's abuse being done in that house. Even in Barbara's situation, she was in a very dysfunctional family. And she'll tell you today that, because she mentioned it last night, she'll tell you today that that's what they look for. They can just look in a young child's eyes and see that she has problems there. They can look in a little child's eyes and see that her father doesn't love her. She's not getting the love from her father. So I'll give it to you. Please, I will give it to you. So in order for us all to talk about human trafficking, we need to talk about that family unit. We need to have young men, in particular, being responsible, financially, emotionally, being responsible in that child's life, understanding what that child stands for, understanding that you have to have that ingredients in that child. I have a 13-year-old and I have a 10-year-old. We just spent our spring vacation going to historical black colleges so that 10-year-old and that 13-year-old can see what their future might be if they decide to go to a historical black college. I went to a historical black college, Kentucky State. My son Bradley graduated from a historical black college in New Orleans, Xavier. We believe in historical black colleges in our family. So I wanted to take my 10-year-old and get her started. Some people say, you want to go do that for a 10-year-old? Wait till she's 14. No, that's too late.
Come on.
In my opinion, that's too late.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying is this. Parents must understand that if you're gonna have a child, I know mistakes happen, but if you're gonna have a child, make sure you're gonna be in that child's life. And don't continue to have children when you know you're not doing the right thing for the child that you have. And that's the tragedy of our society. And if you got 4 or 5 kids, there's no father in the household, there's only a woman who's doing the best she can in some cases. Some cases they're not doing the best they can, believe me, I see it every day. So don't tell me, oh, every woman is doing, oh no, absolutely. Some of them are terror to their children. But what I am saying to you is that we need to lecture our young people, male and female. I tell my son, I have 3 sons, you are not to be bringing a child into this world until you're 30 years of age. In fact, I wrote up a contract, Judge, and he signed it, all 3 of them. And Judge, you talk about enforceable, I don't know if it's enforceable or not, but I got them sign a signed contract, my 20-year-old My 26-year-old and my 29-year-old, they signed a contract years ago. I am not to bring a child into this world until I am 30 or older and married.
That's what's up.
My 29-year-old hasn't violated that. My 26-year-old hasn't violated it, and my 20 hasn't violated
That's
it.
wonderful.
And all hell would be there if they do violate it, in my opinion. I can't stop it, life is life. But I am emphasizing to them that the importance of being in a married situation,
Come on.
raising your children in a productive, moral way is the only way you're going to have successful, healthy kids. And if you don't do that, Barbara will tell you this afternoon when she speaks, if you don't do that, that child's going to start looking outside the house. It's going to start looking for love, particularly a young lady. A young lady needs love from her father.
Yes.
So for you to be a father and you're not in your child's life, you need to go to hell as far as I'm concerned. Absolutely. You need to be in your child's life. And that not only is the female, but the male. The male needs that father figure. So what I'm saying is what we need to be doing in concert with human trafficking is working on the family, like the Indiana Parenting Institute, they do. We need to be making sure we have healthy families, and these predators won't be able to take our children like they do. They look for a weakness and they pounce on it. Thank you very much.
Bernie, you forgot to drop the mic. I told you it's gonna bring you to fire. I promised you that. All right, well, we get ready to move into our keynote speaker. This time I'm going to have Darnita Woods, who's the project manager, come up and introduce our keynote speaker. If we're off a few moments, we'll make up the time right around lunch or so. Ray, you have a book for me? This was the book that'll be on sale out front for those who weren't there last night, called Nobody's Girl. That is from our afternoon speaker, Barbara Amaya. You guys having fun? All right, that's what I like to hear. Tell me anything. All right. Make sure I'm not missing anything before we introduce our keynote speaker. Is there any, can you raise your hand if your table has open seats? I think we're looking for seats earlier. Are there any open seats, any tables in here? So we have on this side of the room over there, Jessica, if you just somebody comes in, we have some seats there, and then on the far corner here. Okay. All right.
Hello.
Hello.
A lot of people in the room. Okay, so like Nick said, I am Darnita Woods. I am the project manager for Gymnast Community Partners, and I have the privilege of introducing our keynote speaker. So I'm gonna read a little bit about her and then bring her up. Heather Maravello writes under the poet name Heather Heartflow. She has been writing for over 20 years and has self-published a book of poetry through Outskirts Press from her time in her life with Love's Redemption's Daughter, The Reflections of Nyla, which is available on Amazon. She volunteers with the Indianapolis Strip Church called Unconditional Ministries, where they minister in love to women in the sex industry, and Ascent 121, who provides clinical recovery for teens in Central Indiana. Heather Heartflow graduated from Ivy Tech Community College with an associate's degree in general studies and a technical certificate in business administration. Heather Heartflow provides writing therapy through poetry and creative writing, in addition to consulting services from a survivor perspective to organizations who work with human trafficking and domestic violence survivors. She also travels as a poet and a speaker. Please help me welcome Heather Maravello.
Before I get started, I am going to have my mentor come up and sing a song. Give me a second to get this laptop situated. This is Mrs. Stephanie Turner. Please welcome her.
Good morning. I bring you greetings from Indianapolis. I thank the Lord for this opportunity to come and encourage you. It's all about love. At the end of the day, it's all about love. And that's what's going to set I can't hear you. Can you start that again? Thank you. You unravel me with a melody, and you surround me with song of deliverance from my enemy, until all my fears are gone. I'm no longer a slave to fear. I am a child of God. I'm no longer a slave to fear. I am a child of God. Yeah. From my mother's womb, you have chosen me, and love has called my name. I've been born again, and to a family, the blood flows through my veins. I'm no longer a slave to fear. I am a child of God. I'm no longer a slave to fear. I am a child of God. I'm no longer a slave to fear. I am a child of God. I'm no longer a slave to fear. I am a child of God. Yeah. Mhm. I am surrounded by the arms of the Father. I am surrounded by songs of deliverance. I've been liberated from my bondages, and we are the sons and the daughters, and we'll sing it. I deliver us. Whoa, sets me free. He loves you. He's a good, good Father. He loves you. He's a good, good Father. He loves you. God bless you.
Wow, that was amazing. Was that not amazing? That just did it for me right there. Jen, are we good on the clicker over here? I can still click. Can go back to the very first one? That's the middle. Oh my, I'm doing it. Okay. I'm new to technology when it comes to stuff like this, so just bear with me here. And if you have trouble hearing, just raise your hands in the back, and I will switch mics. Okay. My name is Heather Maravilla. I am a Gary native, and wow. I want to thank the Gymnast Corporation for this awesome invite. I have to give a little bit of background. Nicholas might just have a little fit, but I'm going to tell it. I guess when he was looking for a speaker for this event, as someone said, he planned it last year, and I heard he was typing up some stuff on Google, and up popped an interview from Fox News for an event that I did with the 121 out of Fishers, Indiana, year before last. And so he contacted them to get a hold of me. Come to find out, we were both in the very same Sunday school class as children in Gary, Indiana. I think I'm a few years older, but we don't remember each other. But it's just how awesome how things like that happen. I'm going to go a little bit into my journey and my story. I will have to say some parts are graphic. And if anybody in here has dealt with any sexual exploitation and you feel like you may be triggered at some point, or maybe it's just a little bit too much to handle, feel free to step out of the room and kind of collect yourself. I'm okay with that. I understand. I wrote this book, Love's Redeemed Daughter. It's all I want to let you know that sex trafficking, human trafficking, it happens in all 50 states. Washington, D.C. reported instances of human trafficking in all 50 states. All 50. We're not missing one. It's everywhere. These are some statistics right here from IamAtreasure.com. This website right here, the lady who started this organization is called Treasures. She's out of California. Her name is Harmony Dust. It's now Harmony Rillo. I found her book when I was still in the sex industry, walking around in a Bible bookstore one day. I was walking around in a Bible bookstore in the sex industry. Can you believe that? Sounds like an oxymoron here. And I found her book, and I took it back to where I was at, and I read it. And so if you want to look up IamAtreasure.com, my whole testimony, my whole story, my journey is on her website. It's under the section called Stories. Human trafficking is the second largest global organized crime today. generating approximately 31.6 billion US dollars each year, specifically trafficking for sexual exploitation, which generates $27.8 billion a year. Women in the sex industry experience post-traumatic stress disorder at rates equivalent to the veterans of combat war. Between 66 and 90% of women in the sex industry were sexually abused as children. And 89% of those women in the sex industry said that they wanted to escape but had no other means for survival. Age of 18 years, because a minor cannot consent. You're under 18. Even if you say yes, you don't really know what you're doing. Any individual can be guilty of committing trafficking of a child. No specific relationship required. There is restitution available to trafficking victims, and trafficking victims may also have civil cause of action to recover other damages from the trafficker. The victim or trafficked person. Human trafficking has no socioeconomic or cultural barriers, regardless of their demographics. Victims are vulnerable in some way, and the traffickers will use their particular vulnerabilities to exploit them. Some of the risk factors are just being young, being in poverty, unemployed, desperation, homes and countries torn by armed conflict, civil unrest, political upheaval, corruption, or even natural disasters. Remember when Hurricane Katrina came through? There were people and there were men crossing lines, borders, state lines, going down there, finding vulnerable people to traffic them and take them out of state, saying, I'll come down here, I'll help you, come with me. And then they were taken away to a whole nother life. Chronic runaways, involvement in the child welfare system, homelessness, a need to be loved, immigration status or addiction. I really honestly believe a need to be loved should be number one. Trafficking involves the use of force, fraud, or coercion. How many have heard this? Anybody heard this? It's okay. We can be interactive today. You can raise your hand. I won't call you out, I promise. I want to go through some synonyms and some definitions. Force, strength or energy exerted. In physics, a force is a push or a pull on an object, changing its motion or direction. Someone was up here earlier saying how we're loving objects and using people. You know, when a woman is objectified or a man is objectified, you become dehumanized. You lose your humanity. So there's that push or that pull on the object. It changes its motion and its direction. That's physics. Here it applies to trafficking. You can physically force someone to do something, and you can psychologically force someone to do something. Synonyms of force: power, effort, exertion, intimidation, oppression, coercion, fraud, wrongful or criminal deception intended to result in financial or personal gain. Synonyms: cheat, hoax, scam, ripoff, trickster, hustle, swindle. Coercion. Coercion, I believe, is one of the less talked about ones, because we all know force, we all know fraud, but coercion is very subtle. Coercion is as subtle as the serpent was in the garden having a conversation with Eve. Coercion started with a conversation. the use of force or intimidation to gain compliance, the use of moral force to compel someone to do something. Coercion can be physical or psychological. So what are we looking for? What are we looking at? How are we missing this, right? If this is such an epidemic, how are we missing it? We're missing it because we're looking for this. Look at the pictures. This is what you see all over media. This is what you see all over the internet. If you try to even Google a photo that says real human trafficking victim, what pops up? This stuff. You're not seeing that driving down the street. This is some of the bigoted lies that you can buy into if you think that you are searching for a victim of human trafficking and you're looking for that. It's not the movie Taken. It's not Liam Neeson coming in and trying to rescue his daughter who was just kidnapped. It's not that. You're not going to see that. And if that's what you're looking for, you're not going to find it. How are victims trafficked in strip clubs? I was trafficked to the clubs in Gary. I want to say, I had to think yesterday how old I was. I said, Lord, I'm 47 or 48. Mama, how old am I?
48.
Am I?
Going to be 48.
Going to be 48. See, I had to ask my mother. They called it a hot spot. Is that what you all called it? A hot spot? Strip clubs can be hot spots. Yes, they can. Because you know what? Back in the day, when you were driving down the street in certain sections of a city, you could see girls standing out on the street. And you could see them out there walking the boulevard, and maybe somebody, driving around, watching them and stuff like that if you stuck around long enough. And so you noticed it, you know what I'm saying? But now it's not like that. And the pictures in the media ain't helping us none, So I was trafficked to the strip clubs in Gary, and as I get into my story today, I'm going to take you through some videos I have on YouTube that go through that journey. So you might be seeing some buildings that you probably recognize. Victims of sex trafficking are frequently recruited to work in strip clubs. Across the United States, women, men, and minors may be recruited to work in strip clubs as hostesses, servers, dancers, but then are required to provide commercial sex to customers. I went looking for a job at the age of 18, coming out of the foster care system. I went in at 17, came out at 18. I was homeless and sleeping in the backseat of an abandoned car with nowhere to go. And my friends was like, well, we can't keep smoking weed and drinking with you because we go home. Where you going? I was like, well, there's a car, so I'll sleep in this abandoned car with the weeds. About 3 months I slept like that. And then they were like, you need a job. And I said, what kind of job? I never had a job. I got the newspaper, because back then we was not doing stuff on the internet. We got the newspaper, and I found a waitress job at a club called The Greenery, up on 53rd and Broadway, which is now Christ is King Church. And I went in there looking for a waitress job. And the man said, how old are you? My foster mother let me out of foster care a week before my 18th birthday. She said, I have a surprise for you. Your birthday's next week. If you'd like to go today, you could go today. I was like, okay, I'm packing up my stuff. I'm gone. I'm out of here. I didn't know where I was going. I didn't know nothing. I just was gone. So I walked into this club and they said, we're not hiring waitresses, but we're hiring dancers. And if you want to come and work, you can come and work. Just come back tomorrow. So, sleeping in the backseat of that abandoned car, I decided to go back. And the first night I made $50 selling drinks. They had a drink quota. The drink quota was 17 drinks a night. You had to make 17 drinks a night if you wanted your drink money, the percentage that you got off of it. And I did what I had to do. I didn't want to sleep in the backseat of that car anymore. Strip clubs are designed to provide the space and environment in which buyers may purchase commercial sex. Victims of sex trafficking in strip clubs must adhere to extensive predetermined schedules and are frequently moved between multiple clubs. Commercial sex sometimes takes place in the bathroom, VIP room, lap dance rooms, or even off-site at hotels or buyers' homes. Traffickers in strip clubs can be business owners. Traffickers can be shift leaders. They can be fake massage business owners saying, oh, I got another business to be perfect for, or even independent. I think we're seeing a very strong rise in independent traffickers. They want to be a pimp because it's sex culture, it's pimp culture, it's rape culture, all of it feeds into this. One of the first things I lost when I walked into the club was my name. And how many know a name denotes your identity? I walked in, they said, what's your name? I was like, Heather. They says, no, Nyla. You look like the Nyla. We're gonna change it to Nyla. So that was who I was. I keep forgetting I have a clicker over here. What's in a name? In the sex industry, a stage name allows a woman to mold herself into an identity, making performance seem somewhat easier. New York to LA. I was like, yay, New York to LA, I'm Nyla. A lot of times a woman does not pick her own name. A lot of times she is given a name. I want to mention that we've done a lot of talk this morning, just a little bit we've done so far on traffickers. But we would not have traffickers if we didn't have buyers. It's all about demand and supply. You can sell a woman over and over and over and over again. But if you're selling dope, you gotta go sell your dope. You run out of dope, you gotta spend your money, you gotta recop. You can sell a woman over and over and over again. Porn fuels the sex industry. I really believe that. I really believe pornography fuels that industry because you would not have buyers. There would be a demand. Pornography is used to train trafficked victims, women and children. I worked in a club out here. It's I want to say Ridge Road. It used to be next to the Cave. It's across the street from the liquor store. You'll see it. I have a video on it. It was called Occasions. Before that, it was called Slip It In, and literally Slip It INN. They played porn. Porn was on a BoobTube TV with a connected DVD player up in the corner behind the bar, and they played porn all the time because they wanted to get men ready. Johns want to act out what they have viewed in porn. Pimps make porn of their victims in order to further humiliate and control and sell them. Porn stars are often forced and coerced, trafficked into the production of pornography. If you have Netflix, I encourage you to look at I Am Jane Doe. Excellent documentary. You still think porn is harmless? This right here, I won't read it out loud, but if you're sitting close to a screen, I want you to read it. This is called the Invisible Men Project. It's out of Canada. You can find it on Tumblr. You just type in Invisible Men Project in Canada and it'll pop up. This is a website that allows Johns to go on it after they've been serviced by a woman, whether trafficked or prostitute, and rate them. They can rate them. And some of the stuff is so dehumanizing. I'm gonna read just a little bit of one, because I want you to catch this. She is black, don't know about Spanish. She told me how a customer the other night who happened to be high on some drug was dumped by his cheating girlfriend. He laid fist to her because she kind of looked like his ex. So her lip was a little bruised. And it goes into what she started with her service. And then he goes in there and says, then we lay and talked for a while, well past the time I was given. She seems friendly. I had fun. Perhaps she might have held back a little due to being beaten up the night before. even if that was consensual, it was still dehumanizing. Who are the buyers of sex? This right here is out of Polk County, Florida, I believe it is. If I'm wrong, somebody correct me. I have no problem with correction. Look at this, 277 buyers. This is a sting. Look at all the men on one side and all the women on the other, and all the people who benefited from the bottom. They did a nice little display of who's who and what's what. And look at the demand side. You don't even have enough women to fill the demand in this picture. And this was one sting. This is out of the Northwest Times I found here in our area on March 12th. A recent reverse sting by the Hammond Police Department and the Lake County Sheriff's Department resulted in the arrest of 4 men for patronizing a prostitute. More operations targeting prostitution are planned in Lake County. It is not a victimless crime. I'm a police chief. It's not a victimless crime. Sex trafficking is not girls tied to a bed. Some of them walk freely, but they are coerced into sexual exploitation. The dreams of a better life are sold. When they arrive, they are tied to debt bondage at times. I can remember working in some clubs, and if one girl made good money and I didn't because they don't think I tried that night, they were like, oh, you're not getting yours tonight. I'll hang on to that, teach you a lesson. This is not just strip clubs, like how maybe they are now, but clubs during this time, when I was in them, prostitution, I want to say, is illegal, but it was allowed in the clubs. I mean, if anybody has any history of occasions up on Ridge Road, the man walked in and he wanted to have sex with everybody in that club. He put his money or his card down on that bar, and you didn't say no. You went upstairs. Later on, they made it downstairs. Sometimes they changed it all around and they put back rooms, but it still happens. I'm going to read some poetry and do some story, read some poetry and do some story, so bear with my back and forth today. This is Thoughts of a Dancer, talking about sex, strip clubs, dancers, strippers, trafficking, sex trafficking, all in this, it's all in the same melting pot. I am your objective, your currency of pleasure, your object of desire for secret endeavors, your makeshift girlfriend, a hired girlfriend experience, your midnight walk in the park or your Katniss in the lion's den, your purchased tiny dancers that spin in your hands. I am faceless, for you do not see my soul. I aim to please and tease, make you feel as though you have control, but inside my heart is heavy. Slowly grows cold from years of pretending, lies I've told, memories I've sold. That is a part of me that you will never know. I have been made an object of your passions, a lustful table for one. I have become your dehumanized object for your pleasure and fun. My only purpose is to satisfy you while my soul sits in silence waiting for this to end. Don't look at me with masked sincerity. To get through. I am faceless, for you will never see my soul, for that is hidden in bright lights and false nights and lies I've been told. memories I've sold, an object of your desire. I've sold myself as your currency provider, your dehumanized appetizer. I am the sweet, subtle voice of a masked liar, your midnight tranquilizer. I purposely become everything you desire. I am faceless, for you will never see my soul. The real me is hidden behind my pretty smile and my sparkling eyes and the glitz and glamour of the night lights. You have no idea how many times I lay in bed and cry, continue to ask myself why or how did I get to this point. A criminal record now, plus years of being underemployed, tricked. I have lived this life long enough settling for breadcrumbs when I know I was made a queen. Help me, Lord, to see my full potential, for I've been here since the rape at age 14. I am faceless, for you will never see my soul. I aim to please and tease, make you feel as though you have control. I have been made an object of your passions, a lustful table set for one. I have become your dehumanized object for your pleasure and fun. I am faceless, for you will never see my soul. You only purchase my body. My heart you can't control. You know, I took a trip recently back here to do I wanted to go through every club I had been trafficked through. I did not realize that when you go into these clubs, that they're like, they see the vulnerability too. They see I was homeless. They see I had nowhere to go. They see I had nobody to depend on. They see I didn't have a family structure. They see, you know, when you're 18, you're an adult. You're on your own. There's no services out here. At least there wasn't for me at that time. That's why I'm so glad we're doing this today. Because in 10 years, we can be so much further. I remember the first club I was trafficked at, the owner, he was like, kiddo. He called me kiddo. Kiddo, let me teach you. Let me show you how to hustle. Let me pair you with one of these girls that can show you what to do. He paired me with a girl named Natasha, who was a longtime veteran in the industry, and she was also a dope fiend. So what do you think my journey took a turn? This is a picture of me when I was 18 years old and homeless, just out of the foster care system. I think it's interesting when I seen this, because when I was putting this PowerPoint presentation together, I was like, wow. The picture on the left, I was 18. I was at Kings Island. By this age of 18, at the picture on some merry-go-round ride at Kings Island, I had already been raped multiple times. I had been trafficked by club owners, because when they find a pretty face that's new, they can make some money, they're gonna put you around all their guy friends, especially the ones that know they come in and pay good money for something fresh and new. And the picture on the right is the same year, 18. You know, I did not realize that the vulnerability that they prey on is real. I was looking for someone to love me, to validate me, to speak into me, to tell me that I mattered, that my life mattered, that I could be somebody. I never heard until the age of 23, for the first time ever, not one adult ever spoke to me and ever said until I turned 23, hey, you know you can go to college? Bishop Alvin Carter over here, one of my mentors for a very long time, is the first man that ever looked at me and said, you can go to college. I was like, my first thought was, no one ever told me that. No one ever looked at me and thought I was college ready, college worthy, smart enough. These are some clubs around the city. Some you may recognize, some you may not, that I was trafficked through all of them. somewhere in Indianapolis, because after 5 years here and some crazy marriage, I mean, that's how I got out. Like, I decided I'm gonna marry out or I'm gonna die. And so I ran away and married out the club. And then I went back for 7 more years. How does that happen? It happens. Anybody recognize any of these clubs? Here I'm going to talk a little bit about occasions. Slip it in. Now, this club right here is occasions. It used to be slip it in. Then it was occasions. I worked here for probably about 4 years, maybe 3. It had quite a few owners. The first owner, prostitution was legal in the club. There were pimps coming through here with girls, but the club owners were pimps too, because men would come in this club and they would put their money down on the bar and they would choose a girl and they would go upstairs. And when a man put money on the bar, you didn't say no, you didn't turn the money down. You went, and if you didn't go, you were escorted upstairs. And there were times when I've even had a rifle held to my head, being made to go upstairs. There was one time I was trying to leave at 3 o'clock in the morning when my shift was over, and my boyfriend at the time was waiting outside for me, and the doorman held a rifle to my boyfriend's head and let him know that she'll come outside when she's done making money. She's not done making us money. And even though I had the freedom to leave, there was I didn't feel like I had any choices. I didn't feel like I had any other life available to me. I didn't feel like I had anything else. And coming back and making the money, even though they took half, a pimp took all of it. And I felt like they were like a step up above, better than a pimp, with my mindset at the time, because they only took half. So I would take my half and I would go home and use that to live off of, pay my bills, get high. They pushed drugs on us. Drugs are readily available in the club. Pills, alcohol, anytime. Cocaine became my drug of choice. There were girls in here selling it for the owner. And so what half we did walk away with, I think the drugs took the rest of it. So they still ended up with all of it. I've known girls leave this club with customers, and one girl was found with her throat slit in an abandoned building. I've known girls in this club who developed such a bad drug habit that they caught AIDS from the needles they were using, lost their children in the system. The club owners made you feel like if you were loyal to them, you would be rewarded, and you would be rewarded with accolades, you'd be rewarded with praise, you would be rewarded with hype, like you was the girl, you was their money maker, you was top girl. And coming from a foster care system and a girl with no family, it made you feel like they cared about you when they did it, because when you didn't do what they wanted you to do anymore, you paid for it in more ways than one. I've known girls who wanted to quit and drugs were just continued to push down their throats, and I've known girls who wanted to come in and work and not prostitute, and they were basically beat, taken in the basement, even raped by the doorman. I've been here in this club when the club owner's wife shot her husband in the bar. because she thought girls were messing with her husband, which I probably were. I've been here through a second owner who ended up getting my best friend pregnant, and she had twins by him, and they were both really bad crack babies. When I left this club, I finally made the decision to leave. I had about a $400 a night coke habit. I was taking about 7 different pills to come down from the coke. I was drinking on top of it, and I knew that I was gonna OD and die. And I knew if I didn't jump out, I was gonna die. And I had to make a choice, and it was hard because at the time, you're coerced into doing so much, and you're told that it'll get better and life is good and you'll make money and we're loyal to you and you be loyal to us and we'll protect you, we'll watch out for you, we'll make sure you have what you need in life. Club owners were pimps. They were true pimps back in the day. The only difference was they didn't take all your money, they took half. How many recognize that club? How many have drove down Ridge Road? Remember that? I remember back in the day, the Cave used to be the place, right across. Go get some good tacos and listen to some salsa all night long, and you guys probably had no idea that was happening right next door. I no longer have to feel your sweaty hands sting my face as you slap it. I no longer have to feel your nails dig into my skin and the blood rush to my face while I gasp for air as you choke me. I no longer have to feel your punch to my back as I try to run away. I no longer have to feel your twist and contort my arm until I falter to a position of surrender. I no longer have to feel. I spent years trying to forget and not feel, forget and not feel, forget and not feel. Is this real? Today, I remembered. I just want to add before I continue on. My upbringing was not easy. There were so many things that happened before I got to that club that just kind of culturally groomed me. Not a trafficker grooming me, but culture grooming me. My life at home was crazy growing up. My mom and I did not have the best relationship. But you know what I've learned along the way? You can only give what you possess. And if I got $20 and you asked me for $20, I could give you $20. But if you don't have the right tools and the right education and awareness, and you can't build a whole house with just a hammer. I sometimes think I could do a whole lot in my own house with a hammer and nails, especially when I have a curtain rod and I got hammer and nails. But you cannot build an effective house that stands against the winds and the storms of life with just a hammer. My mom, I look at her now and I love her. I honor her. She's here with me today. She means everything to me. She didn't have the tools that she needed. She was a young mom. I have 6 children that I birthed after I ran away from the clubs in an abusive marriage that I was scared to leave because I had never had a house. I had a car off the lot. I was going to church. Where was I going to go if I left all of that? Back to the club with my kids? We work with what we've been given. That is why we're here today, because we want to give you some tools. We want to give you some training. We want to give you some education. We want to lay a foundation down and let you see the clearly for what it is. You're going to have some awesome breakout sessions today, And you have some great people here that are going to be able to give you tools. I encourage you to ask the questions and take them, because trust me, you're going to need them. I work with a service provider, Indiana's Trafficking Victims Assistance Program out of Indianapolis. They're called ITVAP, is their acronym. And I get to go out as they train law enforcement, hospital staff. They're finding that a victim of human trafficking is coming through 5 main places. Honestly, I can only think of 3 off the top of my head. They're meeting police, they're meeting hospital staff, ER nurses, and they're meeting social services. And you are right in that prime area to be able to recognize a victim of human trafficking. I've heard a lot of people teach, train, and I love going on along with them. They pay me to be a survivor perspective. Are you serious? I get paid to tell it now. When before I was forced to keep my mouth shut. Thank you, Lord. A victim of human trafficking is not just some young girl with some older guy who's afraid to speak, who's holding her head down, who won't make eye contact. They teach a lot of that. That's a spectrum. The other end of the spectrum is that defiant girl who's got a big mouth, who ain't listening to nobody, who will look you straight in the eye and not care because she does not identify as a victim of trafficking. To her, that's her boyfriend. They hustling, they Bonnie and Clyde, they're about to ride or die, go get that money. And trust me, somebody is dying right here. I'm gonna go into another video really quick. At the end of this presentation, I'm gonna have some links to social media, and you can actually follow me on YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, all that, social media is out there now. But I put videos up like this because I want people to know. I forgot I gotta use my clicker. How many recognize this building? Oh, I see you working with me, Jen. Okay, thank you. There's a lot of wind in this video. This place right here was a Little Red Mill. The Little Red Mill was a little place, I'm not even sure who owned it. I know that there were some girls that did things here that were close to the owners, and so they were favorites. They only had maybe a handful of favorites here. I wasn't one of their favorites. I was a stranger coming in. But here I met a girl that I ended up becoming friends with and taking back to occasions, the other place we left, who ended up turned out really bad in that place. I worked here for a little while. The only memory I really have here was meeting the girl that followed me out. I found out later that the girl that followed me out, I thought she was 21. I never had really thought to ask anything. She followed me to another club, became friends. But I found out that she was working here and she was only 16. I found out because I ran into the prosecutor who prosecuted her rape case the year before, and he was telling me different about her. But I felt a sisterhood with her, and I felt like I could protect her. So we stuck together. I need to mention that the girl that I befriended in that club, like I said, I thought she was 21. I didn't know. Back in the day, they don't have the technology that they have now for fake IDs. And does any remember Dina's Pub up on Broadway? I was up in there at 18 with a fake ID. She had a fake ID. Club owners back then would help you get a fake ID. If they thought you were pretty enough and they seen you was willing to do whatever, even if they saw that you weren't willing to do whatever, if they thought they could get you to do whatever, they would help you. Get them fake IDs. They'd help you maneuver around in this culture. We were in Dina's Pub one night, and we were just dancing away, and there was this older black gentleman sitting in the corner. I don't remember who he was. I don't remember too much, but I remember he was sitting in the corner by the door, this little two-seater table, and I had walked to the bathrooms. I was hot, I was sweaty. I walked to the bathrooms, and he stopped me. And he said, "Who's that girl you're with?" You know, honestly, to this day, I don't even remember her name. I don't even remember her stage name. I wish I could even find her, because I tried to find her. And he said, "Who's that girl you're with?" And I told him. He says, "That's not who she is." I was like, "Yes, it is. That's my girl. I know who that is." He was like, "No, I know her." I said, "How you know her?" He said, "I prosecuted her rape case just last year, and I can tell you she's not 21. I said, "Well, she's over 18. I'm trying to stick up for her. She's over 18. You know, because I'm not trying to tell on me. You know what I'm saying? I'm not trying to tell that I'm not 21. I was like, "She's over 18. He's like, "No, she's not." And he just sat there in the corner and watched us the rest of the night. I told her about it when we left. And she, you know, we was on one that night. I didn't care. She was my girl. I cared about her. I cared about her. When we went to, we left Little Red Mill, we went to occasions together. The owner at the time, his name was Greg. He was probably like the third owner, I want to think. He pushed drugs on her so bad. She's the one that got pregnant and had a set of twins that was both crack babies. To this day, I don't know where she's at. She could be alive, she could be dead. I don't know. Somebody keep me on my time. Anybody here? Keep me on my time, because I can talk, I can go over. Let me know when I got about 15 minutes till. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. My story through the clubs here, my God, I haven't written my memoirs. I was like, Lord, I'm gonna need like therapy or something, like if I start recalling all of this stuff, you know what I'm saying? So the poetry came first. This book is gonna be out here today on the table. I'm about to go set it up because I was fashionably late, so I don't have anything together yet. And it's $15. This is the story of my life in poetry form. So if you like poetry, this is the way to go. I'm gonna play one last video, and then I'm gonna go into just a few picture slides, and we'll let me know, Nick, when we got like 30 minutes. You know how you got deadlines, it ain't really the deadline, but it's like the deadline before the deadline? Okay. When I took this trip back to the clubs, are we working together, Jen? Play that one for me. I forgot I was right in the club. How do you forget that stuff?
There's nothing hard about prostitution. There's nothing hard about being trafficked. What's hard is living with it after. Staying numb is easy. Living sober is hard. They say being trafficked is so hard. When you don't realize you're being trafficked, it's not hard. But when you realize that you've been trafficked, and you have to live with that memory, that's when it becomes hard. Because that's when you realize you were lied to. And that's when you realize you're not some down-ass bitch. And that's when you realize you ain't some real hustler. And that's when you realize you ain't some real go-getter. That's when you realize you made it out alive, when you should consider yourself lucky. And if you know Jesus, you just consider yourself blessed.
When the illusion comes to light.
Yeah. Some girls run back into it and they still pretend that they didn't see the light and they continue to stay numb. Or you run out and you better have a strong support system to help you deal with the wreckage that you're not going back and looking at sober-minded with the light on. I would write Christ is King on it. Let them know that what you did to me really made me stronger. You don't deserve to be standing.
That was the Caddyshack Lounge. When we took this trip back here, and I decided I wanted to do, is my clicker not working? But I decided I wanted to do a video memory from each club. That came out. I didn't want to think about what I was going to say. I just wanted to be in the moment. I went back for 7 more years. After I left and ran away from my marriage, I ran to Indianapolis with 6 children, all under the age of 12 years old, my youngest being 5 months old and my oldest being 12. I felt like the little old lady who lived in a shoe because I was in subsidized housing. I didn't know what to do. My life had been turned upside down because I left this crazy marriage that was abusive. Domestic violence was like the banner over it. When I finally made a decision to leave, I remember a wise lady told me, she said, when your hand is in the mouth of an alligator, you don't just pull it out. When your hand is in domestic violence, is like your hand in the mouth of an alligator. You have to slowly pull out. It took a while to plot, it took a while to plan, it took a while to save money, it took a while to find subsidized housing in Indy and not say anything. It took a while to get out. I went back for 7 more years because I didn't know anything else. I was mad at God. I was mad that he wouldn't fix my husband, who I realize now that wasn't God's fault. He had nothing to do with that. My journey continues. One day I'll write the memoirs, but today I'm just not there. My roots grow deep. My roots grow deep in the discovery of who I am. With all I have been through, it's good to know God really had a plan. A rocky beginning, living life so twisted. I was given great advice, though much I resisted. Living like a root growing wild with no water and too much sun. Trying to escape reality, thinking freedom is all about having fun. A root growing out of dry ground is what I had become. My leaves were dying and my roots were parched. A life I didn't foresee. Cold, harsh, windy nights and many days without water, merely surviving like a vagabond pauper. Someone came along and plucked me out and planted me amongst blossoming ancient oaks and other flourishing green trees. I soaked up some fresh, streaming water, and the wind blew gently through my leaves. I was given moist soil, warm sunlight, and fish swimming in hydroponic water. My roots began to grow deep by streams of living water, minerals and nutrients and the cleanest oxygen I have ever breathed in. I found a new place of trust and mental rest and finally comfortable in my own skin. Rocky winter terrain and sunless, freezing nights have finally faded past. Through it all, this majestic root growing tall and strong, I know I will last. Birds can now perch on my majestic growing branches, earthly strong to provide shade and comfort to those who are seeking shelter or answers. I became fruitful and multiplied, a nurturer from the heart. Those ancient oaks, my mentors, my counterparts. My mess had become my message, and words of encouragement can dance from my lips. I pull strength from the river of living water, the one I intertwine my roots with. I am a tree of righteousness, a brave and fearless oak. My Creator has blessed me and given me new seeds and some new life to grow and some brand new hope. Life has plateaued and I stand tall and strong. I can stretch out and touch the sky with my leafy long arms. My roots grow deep in the discovery of who I am. I am encouraged in every way to know through all of the pain that God really had a plan. Can we go to the next slide? Or am I still working my own clicker? This is a picture of some of my mentors that are here today. This is the book that will be available, Love's Redeemed Daughter, out in the front today. I'll be here all day. If you want me to sign it, say hi, connect, I'll be glad. My mentor, Stephanie Turner, I met this lady in the middle of being high off cocaine, living a life, went right back into it for 7 more years, not dealing with my heart. I went to India, ended up with a pimp boyfriend who I didn't recognize would be a pimp boyfriend because I was being trafficked in the club by club owners, so I didn't even recognize it, how it looked the second time it came around and hit my life. I walked into a church one night and I was actually looking for Bishop Carter. He kept in touch with him over the years. I would call him when I was coked up many nights and coming down, and I would just be like, pray for me, man. My life's a mess. He beat me up. I don't even know where he's at. But my mentors, they're everything. And you all have a chance today to become someone's mentor. Kids who surface a need to be loved. They just want to be loved. They want to be validated. They want to know their quirkiness. It's okay. You know what? Back in the day, you used to say it takes a village to raise a child. It still takes a village. Thank you for today.
All right, how was that? Let's give another hand. So before we break for break, there's a couple of things that we wanted to do. So when Heather first spoke, Heather spoke about being in Sunday school with someone that she did not know. That young man was myself. We did not even know that we were in the same Sunday school, let alone some of the same people growing up. And so this morning, there's a couple here, Leroy and Essie Bolden. I would like to come up at this time, as well as Stephanie Turner. So Heather wants to acknowledge you all for helping her along her journey and her way. And so I have a presentation for both of you. If you all could make your way to the stage, please.
This couple right here, that one.
So Ms. Turner, these flowers are for you. Courtesy of Heather for all the things that you've done for her. Go ahead, give her a hug. And for Leroy and Essie Bolden, there's a plaque here that says, presented to Leroy and Essie Bolden in recognition of all the love and appreciation that you showed me growing up. With love from Heather Hartflow Maravilla, dated for today's date. Heather, you take a picture with all of them? Thank you again, it's your man again. All right, we're gonna take a 15-minute break. Please remember during the break that you can go bid for the silent auction. Also, the registration for the walkathon, the candlelight vigil, and the vendor fair are all out these doors on the right-hand side. We're on break.
You got it. I don't know how to turn it off, so you do it.